Hey guys, in this video we're finally gonna talk about the hair gen setup for the fibers. We got the strands that we created in the previous part, so in here we're gonna actually create a null to output the different curves that we could use as a guide to drive the fur. So let's create a null in here that we're gonna call output strands or output curve rock strands. Let's apply a little color for the hair. We're gonna say a blue color, and this one's gonna be output curve crystal strands. All right, so let's redisplay the final geometry. And now we're gonna go back into the crystal scattering, which gonna be a pretty important part of the setup. So let's make some room here. Basically, that's where we develop all the attributes for the crystal scatterings, and we're gonna use that also to drive the fibers. So after the output attribute rock, I'm dropping a VDB from polygon. That's gonna be useful for the source volume for the hair. So let's add a null, and we're gonna call that output VDB, and a blue color again. So actually, I forgot to rename that node, but that's actually pretty important. So scattered total crystals, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We could actually make a little box. So let's grab that and apply a network box. Boom. Could also apply a color. So that's gonna be main geometries and crystal geometries. All right, let's put the intersection solver aside, and we're gonna create a hair generate context. So this hair generate context also need a groom, a guide groom context. And those two guys actually work together. So we will use the guides to generate the hair. So first, in the guide groom, we need to specify the skin, which is in our case, the rock. So we're gonna grab the output attribute rock. And if we change the rest skin, we can also grab the output VDB. So this way we are just making sure it's using a proper volume to generate the different guides. And also in the guide creation, we're gonna set it to skin attribute and plug any attribute that we want. So density, border. For now, let's just use the density, but we will create one later to specifically drive those fibers. For now, that will do the trick. And of course, we can set the length of these guides. So that would be a default length for everyone, but then again, we will be able to drive their length based on the attribute. So let's reduce that. And yeah, in the hair gen now, we're gonna call this guide groom inside the groom object. Same deal for skin VDB. Let's grab the output VDB. All right, we could try to increase the density just to see what's going on. And if we disable the guide groom, the visibility at least, we see that it's basically interpolating a bunch of hair, a bunch of curves based on the guide position. So that's very useful. If we drop a hair clump in here, we're gonna be able to do different kind of operation to groom and work with all these curves. So that's gonna be pretty handy. Actually, let's apply a color at the end so that it stands out a bit more. I'm gonna apply a blue color. All right, so that's how it's looking right now. It's just to set up the whole thing Let's make sure that the organization is good enough so that later on we can focus on the artistic side. So that's going to be guide groom main setup, and I'm going to apply like purple color. And let's copy paste the guide groom, and this one we're going to set it as a use external geometry, which allows us not to generate the fibers but actually to pick one that we already created, which would be the output curve crystal strands. Right now they are looking funky because what it's doing is trying to snap it to the rocks, but we should disable that so that it's not affecting the look of it. So let's rename that guide groom crystal and copy paste that guy. Also we're gonna change the color, so let's copy paste it, and this is gonna be guide groom rock or guide groom strands, which is okay. Let's go pick up the curve rock strands. I'm gonna rename it properly, sorry for the confusion. So this is guide groom strands crystal. Okay, everything's good. Let's disable some stuff so that we see what's going on. So in the guide groom main setup, I'm gonna create a groom fetch, which allow me to fetch any other groom that we created. So in that case, the strand crystal. Well, that's pretty handy. I'm gonna rename that groom fetch strands crystal and copy paste that. That's gonna be strands rock. So just to show you guys, I'm gonna change the guide output to one of these. Let's try on the crystal maybe, though that's not gonna be interesting. Let's try on the rock. So I realized I forgot to apply the proper guide groom, so that's guide groom strand rock. Alright, let's display the hair gen, and now all the hairs are basically following those new guides, which are based on the rock strands. So if we redisplay everything, we see that it's exactly following the flow of this. So there are a lot of flat kind of curves in here, and I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. We'll see how to fix that later. What we can do too is like merge different guides together. So we have now the procedural guides with the strands. Let's increase the density of the procedural guides. We see now that more of them are like standing up. So because, well, the procedural probably got more curves than the strands and taking over into the generation. So yeah, you see the idea. We now get more curves. So we'll see later how we can mix those a bit better using attributes and stuff. Right now, like I said, I'm not super happy about how flat some of these curves are going. So we're gonna use a polyframe to refit the normal, and let's make a group based on the edges. So we're gonna call it flat edges, and enable the normal selection. And if we set it the direction to 1, let's not forget to set it to edge 2, the group to edge, and now we can select based on the normal direction. So all the flatter one can be selected. Very basic stuff, but that's pretty useful. So let's dissolve those guys with the dissolve, and yep, that's good. So they are looking a bit better, I think. Let's rename those nodes. So group flat edges and dissolve flat edges. And well, the more we increase the spread angle, the less we're gonna get curves. So let's be careful. I'm gonna redisplay the final strands. I don't mind having some flatter one in here. It's just for the hair generation. I'd like to avoid that for now. So this is where we are right now. We'll try to bring that to the next level into the next part.